here is Afterlife Part 2. I promised you that I would share with you some experiences that I had where my guides and angels took me to the different realms on the other side. When they first started happening to me, where my guides and angels would all of a sudden, suddenly, with no warning, and it would happen in the middle of the night, literally lift my soul out of my body. It's called out-of-body travel, and take me with them and show me the different realms that exist on the other side. They started with heaven. Thank goodness they started with heaven. It was a long time ago. When they first brought me up to heaven, it was unbelievable. I'd be sound asleep, and all of a sudden, I'd be woken up, and I would have the arms of my guides and angels linked and looped into my arms, and then I'd feel their bodies kind of pressed and merged behind me. So I was always in a cocoon and completely surrounded by multiple of my guides and angels during all of these out-of-body travel experiences on the other side, which made me feel safe. I would get lifted up. Whenever they would take me to heaven, the sensation would feel like when they would take my soul out of my body, I'd go way up high, really fast, really high. I would see, it was amazing, the cosmos. I'd start with, they would show me the cosmos, and it would be like this huge black sky with just golden sparkle lights that just, you couldn't see where it ever ended. And the sensation was I was still flying up higher and higher and higher up through, and their words were always, you're going up through the cosmos to the heavenly realms. And they would use the cosmos a lot when they would take me up to heaven. So they want us to think in a universal universe type of mentality, which means so much more expanded than planet Earth. They would take me up to heaven, and I would be lucky enough to see glimpses of it. I remember one experience, I saw these beautiful architectural buildings. They were all marble. They had columns, they had pillars. We were flying and floating through them. They were showing me how we actually live and exist in actual buildings, that our souls will go to actual homes in heaven. Everything was so pristine and colorful, colors that we don't even have here on Earth. Nothing is gray, muted. Nothing is black or dark. All the colors there are magnificently bright. I remember, well, I was lucky enough where they would take me to, at that point, this was before I was the principal oracle for Jesus. I was allowed to see him in heaven in these early years. Everything was surrounded with spiritual guides and angels. The feeling and the vibration feels blissful, feels loving, it feels peaceful, it feels kind. It feels like you would never ever want to leave heaven, ever. Like if you leave heaven, it's because you're forced to have to leave heaven, which in essence we are. We basically are kind of forced to have to leave heaven when we come back in to earth, into another body, into another incarnation. And the reason we do that is to continue to evolve our souls, to get to the place of being allowed to live in heaven permanently, full time, for all of eternity, and finally become released from ever having to come back to life on earth. They want me to explain purgatory right now. I'll share more of heaven later. Purgatory's tough. I'm not gonna lie. I know a lot of people don't want to believe in purgatory or hell. Trust me. I don't want to have to deliver the messages about purgatory or hell. But unfortunately, they are a cold, hard reality. When I was teaching my Bible class that God and Jesus asked me to teach for them, they gave me this experience of purgatory to teach people here on earth. Again, I was sound asleep. My guides and angels took my soul out of my body, and instead of flying up, up, up through the cosmos, all the way up to the heavenly realms, the sensation, and I could see me and them was down, flying down. As I'm going down, there's no beautiful dark sky with the golden lights or blue sky. Sometimes when they take me to heaven, it's also blue. Everything is completely gray. It's heavy. The vibration immediately, I was hit with the feeling of complete despair, complete sadness, complete suffocation. It was literally a vast open area of levels of grayness, and he brought me to one level and showed me, on this level, here's how the people have to exist. And my guides floated me up to what was a cage, and I saw a man in a pen, which was a cage. He was by himself, like solitary confinement. And when I looked around, I saw all these other pens, cages, floating near him, but all the cages were like probably, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 feet apart, where you were so far apart you couldn't actually talk to your neighbor. They were all isolated, and they were all right where they could see each other, but they couldn't talk to each other, and they had no companion in their solitary confinement pens. My heart sunk for him, and I felt so much empathy for the pain and misery I could see he was feeling from complete isolation, being locked and trapped in a pen, having nothing to look forward to, having nowhere to go, and having to sit there and wait his time out until he would be allowed for that cage door to open for him. God told me they all are in their cells, their pens, and they have to be there for as long as it takes for them to repent for their sins and mistakes and earn God's forgiveness before God will open the door to their pens and allow them either up another level in purgatory or perhaps completely out of purgatory. I went to his pen, and my guides and angels gave me the sensation again of having so much empathy for him. And then they said to me, because I was trying to find a door for him and help him get out, and there was no handle and there was no door that I could access. And they said to me, the only way you can help him get out is to pray for him. And then that was when my guides and Jesus, Kuan Yin, Mary, and Buddha all said and asked me to start regularly praying for the souls in purgatory and to ask God for more relief for their souls. After that experience, I have actually adopted praying for the souls in purgatory and in hell so that their time there can be lessened. They said that my prayers will make a difference and that all of us can make a difference for them. Remember that. By the way, when we pray for them, I'm not doing it to earn a blessing, and I don't want you to do that to earn a blessing. You want to do that just to do that for just to be compassionate. I know that we also do receive blessings to help those who are in true dire need. People that are in purgatory and hell are in true dire need. Because another level of purgatory that they brought me to was like this. Again, they brought my soul up out of my body, and all of a sudden, I'm flying down. And immediately, because they've brought me to purgatory a handful of times, I know down means, oh, we're going to purgatory or hell. Don't know where yet. Now I'm nervous. Immediately, everything starts going gray, 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 gray. It's like all these sheets of gray. You're just stuck with gray vastness. And it's like no light, no energy, no sound. Completely miserable. They suspended me like over here, and they had me look at a dimension where I saw a dimension that is typical for people. Their words were, here's what it's like for those who are kind-hearted people who didn't commit a lot of sins but were atheists. And then also, here's a dimension for prostitutes. And they had those crimes, the prostitutes, and the atheists who didn't have a lot of other sins racked up with them, meaning they weren't guilty of too many more other sins. But the atheism, you're now in a dimension where it's miserable. And they showed me this humongous, it looked almost like this auditorium. And they were all completely, again, in these separate bathtubs. And I know the bathtubs meant they have to cleanse themselves from their sins and mistakes. And I saw individual people trapped in bathtubs. Jesus used the analogy this time of a bathtub to let me know they're contained like a cell, and they're on solitary confinement. They have no socialization. They don't have any quality type of an existence. It's similar to the pen that the guy was in. He showed me how many people were there, and he wanted me to spread the message and share the message that the atheists will go here. And these are the ones that didn't commit a lot of sins on top of atheism. The ones who are atheists who commit additional, more harmful sins are going to experience a whole different level of pain and suffering and purgatory. I saw how they were completely miserable, like the man in the pen. I also saw again how massive this dimension was. My heart sunk. I felt again empathy, worry, care, and concern. There's one more I'll share with you. I was given this one many, many, many years ago. And this is actually one that really, to me, brings home the very first message about the afterlife. I was brought to someone's afterlife, and they showed me that this person who once lived on earth, very wealthy, treated himself to a lot of luxuries, was very ambitious, money, materialism meant a lot to this person. The sins and the mistakes that this person created, which are in addition to living an extravagant life, that there was not enough of a balance with charity with the extravagant life to balance it out, ended up in his afterlife in a level of purgatory that now he has to live like this. And I was shown when I was brought there, again, everything void of color, no sunlight, no blue sky, there, nothing. It's literally just an abyss of gray and this feeling of gloom and doom. This person who once lived wealthy and in luxury, multiple homes, now lives in the equivalent of a very cramped, small trailer. And I saw the person crammed in like an old trailer, barely able to even stretch his legs and be comfortable. Like his legs were bent up. He was crammed like on a bench in the trailer. He couldn't actually put his legs out on the bench. They also showed me how the trailer was so tiny he couldn't even stand up straight. My guides showed me his existence in purgatory is now the opposite. It is completely void of luxury and all of the pleasures that he once had in his luxurious lifestyle here on earth. He's now living in very cramped corners and living very uncomfortably, miserably uncomfortably for as long as he has to do his time in purgatory and earn God's forgiveness. Once God forgives them, then God releases them from that level of purgatory and brings them either to a higher level of purgatory or all the way through heaven's doorway. I was eventually amazed when it occurred to me how many different levels of purgatory there is and how many people actually go to purgatory. Jesus told me when he showed me that entryway to heaven in that previous video. He said to me, I think I said it in the previous video, the majority of people make it to that entryway versus through that doorway. The majority of people here on earth are thinking they're going to make it through that doorway. That's why Jesus and God and Kuan Yin and Mary and Buddha have asked me to share this enlightenment with you here on YouTube, as well as all of the difficult messages that I deliver again and again and again that are not fun for me to deliver. It's to protect you from ever having to end up in one of the purgatory realms. Jesus showed me the reality is the way mankind thinks and believes, our habits and our lifestyles, the way the majority of people are living, they are leading themselves to a level of purgatory, the entryway to purgatory if they're lucky, but not through the doorway. When he gave me that enlightenment quite a while ago, I decided I had one of two choices. Be quiet so people don't stone me, hang me in the village, hate on me, unsubscribe, unclick on me, or step up for them, for God, for Jesus, and speak out on what they have enlightened me with to help prevent and protect you from ever possibly making it to one of those extraordinarily miserable levels where you will live to regret ever dismissing the wisdom that God did bring to earth through his messengers that he chose to help guide mankind with. So I decided I'll step up for everyone's sake. Because then there is hell. I was floored when they brought me to hell. They brought me to hell again. It's gotta be at least 6-7 years ago. They brought me to hell several times. I said 2. I think it's actually 3, because they're showing me visions now. Let's see, I'm going to share one today. Again, they woke me up in the middle of the night with no warning. They took my soul, and I'm going down really fast, really, really far. And all of a sudden, everything has moved from being gray to black. And all of a sudden, there's black, and now I'm seeing burning embers. And the whole energy also just shifted into becoming this feeling of death and this feeling of even more despair. And they were holding me so much more tighter. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think I know where we are right now. And then all of a sudden I started to see the demons. And then I started to see the humans that were trapped in hell with the demons and what they were doing to the humans. I saw how the humans had no clothes. They were stripped of all clothes. I'm not going to actually say on YouTube right now what I saw the demons doing to the humans, but I was so disturbed. I was so disturbed. And I thought, oh my gosh, you're not going to even believe me if I tell them it's worse than what they think it is. It honestly is worse than what you think it is. And unless God and Jesus require me to say it, I'm not going to say it. All I'm going to say to you is, it's worse than you think it is. And these humans are trapped down there with them. And there's no chance of escaping because of what they've done. It was the feeling of complete hopelessness that I had for the humans, and then of course complete disdain that I always have for the demons. And then it was this feeling of, oh my gosh, people need to know this. They need to know the details of what's really happening in hell. So I'm going to leave it that it was more graphic and more horrific than I would have imagined, because I've had my students ask me who goes to hell. And I have been allowed so far, I call it categories. These categories go to hell. God answered that question that my students had and told me the night after this class when my students asked me the question, satanic worshipers go to hell. Satanic worshipers, immediately they go to hell because they've committed the biggest crime, which is complete betrayal to their creator. God is your creator. God has created your soul. For someone to turn their back on the one who created their soul is the ultimate betrayal. Satanic worshipers end up in hell. God told me, and you can read it on my blog, Putin, who's committed the senseless, atrocious war on Ukraine, will be going to hell. In large part, not just because of a senseless, malicious, brutal, unwarranted war, but because of the war crimes. So Putin's multiple acts that he's committed, with all of the reasons that he's justified creating this level of violence with war crimes. War crimes is kind of the ultimate, what sealed the deal for him, will be going to hell. God has let me know that there's more categories that go to hell, and that he will be telling me more in the future. It isn't what I was thinking in the beginning, which was really, 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 really rare and selective. It's more bigger pool of people go to hell than what I originally thought before I received enlightenment. But we're hoping that you gain from this lesson is what will save you from going to a lower realm is going to be your faithfulness to God and to Jesus. They told me several years ago, in order to get into heaven, you have to be faithful to both God and Jesus. You have to believe in both God and Jesus and be faithful to both God and Jesus. They're showing me right now, a lot of people believe in God but not Jesus, Jesus but not God, and they're being stubborn. It's their home. God and Jesus told me heaven is their home. It belongs to them, and that they do not allow anyone into heaven that does not show them respect, beginning with believing in them and then ultimately showing respect and devotion to them. If you don't believe in both of them, you don't have a chance of getting into heaven. Immediately, you will end up either in that entryway or in one of the purgatories. If you want to continue to work on making sure you make it to heaven, I'm being shown the 10 Commandments. Then you're going to want to be devoted to following the 10 Commandments, and you're going to want to keep yourself very mindful of living a life where you are making wise decisions and trying so hard not to make the sins and mistakes. And when you do make the sins and the mistakes, you take accountability for them, you repent, and you seek God's forgiveness. Because you don't just die and disintegrate. The complete opposite. You will go on to live in another dimension, in circumstances that are going to be ones that you created with the choices and the actions that you made here. One of the biggest messages I hope that you get, please understand you have to believe in both God and Jesus, and you really have to seek and strive to live a life where you are harmless and you are pure. Pure means honest, not deceptive, not greedy, not holding a hard addiction, drugs, alcohol, money, shopping, etc. Pure means think of a child, that your ethics and your mind and your heart are very honest, loving, kind, and you're not seeking the things on earth that we typically fall into seeking. You have to learn how to pull away from that. Harmless means that you are peaceful and that you are safe and that you are kind and you are compassionate and that you are loving and that you are forgiving, that you are not violent, aggressive, angry, volatile, one who is seeking and trying to start or create conflict, wars, arguments, and excuse it and defend it. You're one that is trying to only create peace for yourself and peace for others. So like this was super long. Did not know how to do it any quicker than that. So here is some enlightenment on heaven, purgatory, and hell, and the path that you can take to make sure that you make it all the way up to heaven's doorway, and hopefully make it all the way through heaven's doorway so that you can spend your afterlife in paradise. Until next time, blessings and namaste to all of you.